there. Welcome back to the GOAT Fantasy Football Podcast. I'm your host, Jim Neander. What's going on? I hope you're all doing really well today. Kind of good show for you today on a Wednesday, one of those kind of Wednesday wildcard shows, not doing a review or a preview show, which is, going on the rest of the week. So we're going to talk about some of my preseason rankings versus where these guys are right now through 3 weeks, and then talk about whether we believe that's what's going to continue or not and why. Pretty simple. We're going to burn through a bunch of guys at each position and just let you know where I had them ranked in preseason, where they are currently ranked in their position right now in PPR formats, and if we think that's going to maintain or they're going to come back to where I first had them ranked. So going to be pretty easy. Some quick news and notes here. You've probably already heard that we had our first COVID-related NFL postponement and issues. The Tennessee Titans game with the Pittsburgh Steelers is currently postponed. They're saying that it's going to be Monday or Tuesday. All I can say about that is make sure that you have some guys targeted. The Sunday night game is the Eagles and the 49ers. The Monday night game is the Falcons and the Packers. And in the Sunday night game, Eagles and 49ers, you can look at guys like Greg Ward. You can look at Kendrick Bourne on the 49ers. So both of those guys, I think, are really good pickups for possible flex plays. Brandon Ayuk as well for the 49ers. And then for Monday night for the Packers and the Falcons, of course, Russell Gage, if he's not already taken, go ahead and make sure he's snatched up in some of those leagues. And then for the Packers, both Allen Lazard and Marquez Valdez-Scantling are good options, if you need them for that night. Lazard is probably gone after his great week last week, but MVS can probably be had, and especially with Devontae Adams coming back, not sure what the roles are going to be for those two guys. So just be prepared. Make sure you have some guys on your bench that aren't just pure stashes, some guys that are ready to play this week in case you need them to play. All right, so don't want to get caught not having somebody and somebody that you had, hey, he's a handcuff and he's a league winner, if something happens, like a Chase Edmonds, and then, you have to play him and he might still get you 4 points, 3 points. So just be ready for that. It's going to happen. It's unfortunate, but, hopefully it's the first one in this kind of, maybe this gives everyone else that wake-up call, hey, we don't want this to, snowball, and let's really keep it going now for the next few months and just get this season in. They're going to play the game anyway, I believe, but just make sure you have another contingency plan ready. All right, so we're going to get on with the bulk of our show today so we can get them all in. We're going to be talking again about players that I ranked, a certain way in my preseason rankings, and then where they wound up being so far through 3 weeks, why we agree with that, why we don't. Within each position, we're going to start with guys that I ranked higher than where they currently are, and then we'll do a few guys that I ranked a little bit lower than where they currently are, and kind of do it that way. We'll just see what happens. So we're going to jump in with quarterbacks, and we're going to start with Deshaun Watson now. Here's a guy that was essentially consensus top 6 or 7. And I also had him as my number 6 ranked quarterback. He's currently the number 21st ranked quarterback in the league. And, pretty shocking. We know what's going on with Watson. He lost Deshaun Watson, so that was a big problem. Deshaun Watson. He lost DeAndre Hopkins. Big problem there. Tried to replace Hopkins with both Brandon Cooks and Randall Cobb. They still had Fuller and Stills, and just haven't been able to make it all work. Now, granted, they started off really tough. Really tough schedule to start the season. 3 best teams probably in the AFC. Chiefs, Ravens, Steelers. Really tough to do that. But they are facing what looks like when we talk about, let's just get this out of the way. When we talk about future strength of schedule for the remainder of the year, we're not going off just the points allowed to those positions for the first 3 weeks of this season. We're actually going back a full season. So if we're going through week 3 right now, we're going to go back to week 4 last year and count the last 16 games basically that a team has played and how many points they've given up to that position. So, give a little bit larger sample size. Of course, it skews it because there's different personnel, but, nothing's perfect, right? So just to give you that heads up. So, all right, Deshaun Watson for the rest of the year faces the 19th, toughest schedule as far as, for quarterbacks. So I don't know that I love playing Watson for the rest of the year as a must play until I see him mold a little bit better, gel a little bit better with his receivers. I want to see the chemistry there, and I want to see a big output. Now, does that mean that you're benching Watson next week? Probably not. I mean, I understand that, but at the same time, I do think that he's just not a must play, on a week to week basis right now. Just how I'm looking at it, um, just what it is. So right now, I have him as a sixth. I had him before the year as a sixth ranked quarterback. Right now, he's the 21st. If I was doing rest of season rankings, he probably would fall just outside my top 12. And I think he'd probably be around 12 or 13. So I do think he's going to get better throughout the year. I think he'll have some big games. But I don't think at this point, with the way the offense looks, David Johnson, Brandon Cooks, Will Fuller, I just don't see this offense being nearly as explosive as it has been with DeAndre Hopkins in the lineup. So, that's just how I'm seeing it. So, this next week, the Texans, who do they have? Got the Vikings, so there's an opportunity there. We'll see what happens. What can you do? All right. The next guy we're talking about is Daniel Jones, Danny Dimes. I had him as the 13th ranked quarterback on the year. Right now, he's the 30th ranked quarterback on the year, having a really, really tough start to the year. We knew he had a tough start going in as far as defenses he was playing. Steelers, the Bears, some tough matchups. Now he's lost Saquon Barkley. But I do want to say that he is facing what's expected to be the number one, the most favorable schedule for quarterbacks, coming up. And I still think he can get some stuff done here. Now, I have him as a 13th before the season. I know he's 30th right now. There's a lot of football left to be played here. And right now I have the 13th quarterback, having about 59 points or so. And Daniel Jones having, 33. I'm just saying, I think there's still time for him to get closer to that. If I was betting right now, I would definitely say he's going to be within the top 20. And I'm still willing to say he's a top 20 quarterback. And, I'm still lower on him than I was earlier before the year, obviously. But I think he's going to be closer to my preseason ranking than he is to his current ranking when the year is over. I think he'll get it together a little bit. And you're going to hear about Ingram later in the day on this program. And he's a big reason why I think he has a chance to, increase his play a little bit there. So, all right, let's talk about a couple of quarterbacks the other way that are, currently ranked much higher than I had them ranked. And, we're going to start with Josh Allen there. And, Josh Allen was kind of a consensus, maybe top 8 or 9 quarterback as far as draft ADP went this year. We know that the rushing upside was there. We know that the accuracy issues were there. And then they also grabbed Stephon Diggs in the offseason to try to, bulk up the weapons that Allen has and hopefully increase his accuracy, especially with some downfield passes. And boy, has it worked? Josh Allen is the number 3 quarterback on the year right now and has had some absolutely monstrous games. Well, I got him as, the number 2 quarterback on the year, a little bit ahead of Patrick Mahomes. And he's just gone off. He's got 12 total touchdowns on the year through 3 games, 10 through the air and 2 on the ground. And, while I don't think he's going to be the number 2 quarterback for the rest of the year, yes, he's going to be well above where I had him. I had him at 14. He's at 2 right now. I think he'll be a top 6 quarterback at the end of the season. They don't face the easiest schedule as far as quarterback strength of schedule goes. But I think when you look at how well they're playing, look at how well the offense has gelled with Stephon Diggs. The targets are being spread around. Singletary and Moss are kind of finding their way a little bit. I think the fact that Moss was out this last week helps everybody. Singletary looked really good. Let's get him in the game. Let's make sure it's the Singletary show. That's just the way it probably should be going forward with Zach Moss, spelling him, maybe some goal line work, maybe some third down work, but not too much. Instead of a full split, which he was kind of looking like before. So I am going to go ahead and say that I missed on that one and that Josh Allen is probably going to return a good amount higher than I said at the beginning of the year. And the next one is going to be Cam Newton. Cam with the Patriots has looked really good so far. 21st was where I had him ranked preseason. currently the number 7 quarterback on the year, is what I'm showing here. And let's see here. No, why am I doing that? We got to go to 6 point. That's why. That's why we got messed up here. So we still got Josh Allen at number 2, and we got Cam Newton at number 8. Number 8, not number 7. So I had him at 21. He's at number 8, and I think at the end of the year he's going to be closer to my ranking than number 8. Yes, he's looked very good. The rushing work has been there. The touchdowns have been there by the goal line. But, they're just kind of getting their feet wet with this offense, and I think people are just trying to see him for the first time and remember what kind of threat he was running the ball. I just don't know that it's going to maintain that level all year long. Now, I'm not saying he's going to be, bad for the rest of the year. But if you were to ask me where I'd have him ranked for the rest of the season, it would probably be around QB 14 or 15. Which kind of splits the difference there, I guess, in the middle of 21st and 8th. But, I think probably closer to 21st. And I think there are going to be more weeks like last week where he didn't really help you very much than weeks like against the Seahawks where he had a blow-up week. I have some shares of Cam Newton. I'm hoping he plays really well. I just think that he's going to wind up outside the top 12 at the end of the season, probably closer to 15 or 16. So, we'll see how that works out. We're going to do another audit maybe, after like week 9 or so, and kind of revisit it again, maybe after week 8, the halfway point of the season. I think that seems like a more obvious point. I don't know why. Week 9 stuck in my head there. I think because for fantasy. I kind of broke it up like 3 weeks, to get to the 13th week. But, I don't know. That's just what I was thinking maybe. Let's move on to running backs here, right? We've got a bunch of running backs and wide receivers we want to talk about. Talk about 3 running backs that I have ranked higher, much higher than they are currently ranked, and what we think about that. We're going to start with Kenyan Drake. I do have some shares of Kenyan Drake, and I had him ranked as the 8th running back in PPR formats, and he's currently the 28th ranked running back. Pretty tough start for Kenyan Drake. He's getting the work on the ground. He's getting the bulk of the carries, but he's not getting goal line carries, and he's not getting passing down work. And I don't really see either of those greatly increasing. I just hope he makes some big plays, which he has in the past. And I think that he's getting enough carries that, he's facing some good matchups in the next few weeks that I really hope that he goes off a couple of times. 2 out of the next 3 weeks, I'm looking for him to go off 25-plus points and to really bump up, his current ranking and to jump into that, like, higher-end running back 2 spot where right now he's kind of like a, higher-end, mid-level running back 3. But after the next 3 weeks, I'd like to see him around running back 15, 14, and then going from there. So I'm gonna go ahead and say he's gonna be closer to my ranking than his current ranking of 28. And while I don't know that he's necessarily gonna be a RB1 at the end of the year, I still think he has every chance to be a top 15 running back. And that's where I'd put my money right now if you're asking me to do that. I just think that the carries are there in a pretty good offense, and I like the volume, so I'm gonna buy it. I'm gonna buy into it. Joe Mixon. This one's tough. I thought about this one a lot. He's the 12th ranked running back in my preseason rankings, and is currently the 38th ranked running back, and he's well outside, his projections from everybody. I was pretty much shocked with where he was. I think a lot of people maybe had him at like 8 or 9. Some people had him a little bit lower than that, but 12th was a fine spot for him to start the season. But 38th is brutal if you're a Mixon owner. They've got Joe Burrow, the rookie, in there who's actually looking pretty good. A lot of weapons on the outside, but the offensive line is awful, and they give up a good amount of points. Between those two things, it's just not great. And when they're down, he's not getting, a bunch of garbage time targets. And that would really help you, get those extra points that you need, even in games where they're not scoring a lot of points and maybe touchdowns aren't there. If you can get those 3, 4, 5 targets in those last, quarter and a half when you're down, the points can come. Now, I guess the question is, do I think he's going to be closer to 12th in my ranking or closer to 38th? And unfortunately, I think he's going to be closer to 38th. I have a hard time thinking he's going to crack the top 20, 22, and I already had him at 12th. And so I think like RB 24 or so is probably, pretty good landing spot for him. So I guess technically if he's 24th, he's closer to my ranking. But I feel like, you would feel a lot worse about drafting him, about having him on your team if he winds up as the 24th best running back, or 25th best running back. So I'm going to go ahead. I think it's a sell on Mixon. I don't like it. I think my rankings, I've went with everybody else. I looked at the end of the year last year, looked how good he looked at the end of the year and how much they ran the ball. And said, hey, I'm in on it. The talent is there, got to get the receptions, and it very well could turn around for him. But it's going to be, you have to turn around a lot, make up some room quick, because there's some running backs that are running away with it and scoring a lot of points and have their roles, locked up, man, like locked up. So is what it is. And then the last one I want to talk about is DeAndre Swift. In my preseason rankings, the 18th running back from the Detroit Lions, and currently the 39th ranked running back, just behind Joe Mixon. And this one, man, this one's really tough. And I'm going to go ahead and say he's going to wind up closer to mine than his current ranking. I know the Lions have come out and just recently said that they think that Adrian Peterson is going to be their main running back. And he has been extraordinarily durable, for any running back, not just, I don't want to say just for his age. I mean, he really has been durable. He's got a good amount of carries. He's been on the field a good amount. Banged up just a little bit, but not compared to a lot of these other guys. So I'm a little bit worried about that. They do have a very favorable schedule towards running backs coming up. And I just think that as the year progresses, they're not going to be a very good team. They're going to want to get their young guys in there. And I think the passing down work is going to be there just enough. And where my ranking was at 18th, it was generous enough. And if we're talking about 39th, so we're talking about 20, and I got to make up 10 spots. He's basically got to be a top 28 or top 29 running back at the end of the year. And I think that's fine. So I think that I'm going to stay with DeAndre Swift and that he's going to wind up closer to my preseason ranking of 18 than his current ranking of 39. All right. So let's turn it the other way. Let's talk about some guys I was a little bit lower on that are currently ranked a lot higher than I had them preseason ranked. We're going to start with Austin Ekeler, and I've got some shares of Ekeler. So, please don't think I don't like Austin Ekeler, the football player. I just didn't like the way I thought the offense would look with Tyrod Taylor. And quite honestly, I think I was vindicated completely in that first week. I know it was only 1 week, so, all right, I can't say vindicated completely. That sounds a little bit silly, but, we saw an offense that wasn't going to check the ball down that much. We saw an offense that wasn't going to be very good at all. And that's how I saw it being. So I didn't like Austin Ekeler in that offense. And I thought the receptions would come way down and scoring opportunities just wouldn't be there. So now that we have Justin Herbert, and I'm hoping, he looked good again this week. They moved the ball a lot. And I know, I've already said it, it's brutal for a guy to lose his job the way that Tyrod Taylor could lose his job if that happens. But at the same time, you got to give your football chance the best chance to win. I think at this point it's Justin Herbert. So, getting to Austin Ekeler, you've seen the kind of weeks he can have in the last 2 weeks, last week specifically, if the offense is flowing through Herbert. And I had him ranked as a 19th ranked running back, so not bad at all. But right now he's the number 6 running back on the back of that big week last week. And I think I'm going to go with I'm correct here. And only because we've already heard Anthony Lynn say, hey, Tyrod Taylor is our starter, gives us the best chance to win. Herbert's not ready. And I just think he doesn't want to let the guy lose his job that way. I mean, that's brutal. So I kind of get it. But I don't like it. I think Herbert gives you the best chance to win. And I think for fantasy football, for sure, Herbert is going to be much better for people. And we saw that with Keenan Allen, who's not on this list today, but could be. And, 19 targets in the third week, with Herbert as the quarterback. And a lot of them were right on the money and very catchable. So, I don't know. So Ekeler, rest of the year, they have a pretty favorable schedule towards running backs. But you do have Josh Kelly eating in. So right now he's number 6, and I have him at number 19. I'm going to go ahead and say he's going to be outside RB1 at the end of the year. That's what I'm going to say. I'm going to say he's going to be around RB14, something like that, RB14, RB15. And it's going to be definitely closer to my ranking than his current one. So I still like Ekeler. You still play him. It's just that I don't think that once they put Taylor in, he's going to maintain that. If they say Herbert's the quarterback the rest of the way, then I do think he's a top 10 running back, rest of the year. All right, so the next one we're going to talk about is a combo. Got a little duo here. It's the Cleveland backfield, Nick Chubb and and Kareem Hunt, both looking fantastic this year. So we have Nick Chubb as the 8th ranked running back on here, and Kareem Hunt is number 13. So they're both almost RB1. I mean, Kareem Hunt is right there. I had Chubb at number 22 and Hunt at 26. And, this was the issue here, was that, they're going to be split and they're going to be close to each other in points. And so I couldn't rank either of them too high. And through 3 weeks, there's been plenty of work for running backs in Cleveland for them both to maintain, very high levels of production. Now, they have played Cincinnati. They've also played Washington. So they've had some pretty plus matchups in there. 2 out of 3. Obviously, Baltimore was a pretty tough matchup for week 1, But, Chubb looks absolutely amazing on the ground, averaging almost 6 yards a carry, through 3 games, 51 attempts. And then you have Kareem Hunt with 39 attempts, getting those later in the game attempts, also averaging over 5 yards a carry. He's got 8 receptions. Chubb's got 3, so you're getting that extra work, from Hunt as you'd expect in the receiving game. And, man, this one is also tough for me. And I think I'm going to go with a split ski here. I'm going to go with a little split ski here. I'm going to say that Nick Chubb winds up closer to his current ranking of 8 than my ranking of 22. But Kareem Hunt winds up closer to my ranking of 26 than his current ranking of 13. All right? So if you can pick up what I'm laying down there, okay? So Nick Chubb, 22nd in my ranking, 8th overall. You got 14 spots. So basically I'm saying he's going to be a top 15, top 14 running back at the end of the year. And at this point, with how good he looks, which is amazing, and with how much work there is, I'm fine saying he's going to be basically an RB1 for the rest of the season. I'm totally cool with that. And for for Kareem Hunt, currently 13th, and then, I have him as a 26th. We're only talking about 13 spots there, so 6 or 7 difference. Basically would have to be a top, 18, top 19 running back. And I think he's going to be just outside of that. I think he'll be a very, just squeeze into that RB2, probably around number 23, number 24. And if you're asking me to put, my money down on it right now, that's where I'd have Kareem Hunt. Outside the top 20, and, a little bit closer, back end of that RB2 level. So I'm going to stick with that one there. All right, that's going to do it for running backs there. That was 6 of them. Going to bring us along to our wide receivers. And, if you watch some of the shows, you probably know who I'm going to start with here. It's going to be Michael Gallup, of course. Michael Gallup was kind of my big pick going into the beginning of the year. I had him as the 7th ranked PPR wide receiver. I know that's a huge, jump from where his ADP was in the, I think, like the low 20s or so. And that's right where he is. It's his 23rd wide receiver on the year so far, in an offense that's absolutely just throwing the ball every which way, man. That offense is throwing the ball all over the damn place. Yards galore. Touchdowns haven't been crazy, but the yards are there. I mean, so many, just targets and yards are absolutely nuts in Dallas right now. You are seeing a big split. Cooper's getting his. Lamb is getting his. Last week you had Cedric Wilson score a couple touchdowns. You have tight ends getting there. So there's always that problem that there's going to be a big mix of guys, but there is so much volume there that it can work. And last week, Gallup had his first big week. So I've got him at 7. He's at 23rd right now. That's about 16 picks, so that's 8. That basically means he's got to be a top 15, top 16 receiver. And I'm going to go ahead and buy that. I mean, right now, as it is, I'm going to buy that. We saw last week the big play capability. I think the offense works better when they're going through Gallup. I think we see when a lot of these other guys are getting their receptions, it's earlier in the game, and they've been falling behind. And then on the drives where they're scoring, I think they've been using Gallup a little bit more. And maybe just my bias wants to see it that way, but I'm going to go ahead and pick him as a top 15 wide receiver at the end of the year. I'm going to buy that one. Devontae Parker. So I had him ranked as number 12. I think he finished the year at number 7 last year, maybe something like that. And he was getting very, very little respect in the preseason ADP game, going maybe in the mid-20s as a wide receiver. And I know currently he's the 31st ranked wide receiver, but I'm going to go ahead and buy that he's going to be closer to 12. So, they're not facing the greatest schedule for receivers. It's just that, when I watch Fitzpatrick play, he wants to throw to Parker. He wants to throw a lot, and he wants to throw to Devontae Parker. Parker, even a little bit hobbled, is open on a lot of his routes. He's ready to make the contested catch. And I just think if he gets his hamstring right sooner than later, he is absolutely going to climb closer to that number than to 31. So that's almost 20 picks there. So basically, he's got to be a top 22, basically a wide receiver 2, right? Top 24, let's say, to pretty much return that. And I think he's absolutely going to wind up finishing the year as a top 24 wide receiver. Absolutely for me. So that's the way I'm looking at it. I'm buying that one also. And then my last one here is going to be OBJ, Odell Beckham Jr. 15th on my preseason ranking and 38th currently. So, 23 picks there between, reality and projection. So we've got about 11 or 12 to burn, meaning he would have to be a wide receiver 26 or 27-ish, maybe or better. And I'm gonna sell it. I don't think he's gonna get there. I don't think he's gonna be a wide receiver 2. And I just think that he's going to have too many games where he scores 6, 7, 8 points and no 30-plus point games. And that's the problem. I think the boom games are still going to be like 24 points, 26 points. You're not going to get those Devontae Adams, Julio Jones 40-point games with this team, with this offense, with this quarterback. So I'm going to sell it. I'm going to say I missed that one. I've got some shares of OBJ. I'm not happy about it. It's always tough to sit him. He's got no trade value, basically, except people like me who can't get kind of away from his name and his early performance. It's just tough. It's tough with OBJ. So I'm going to sell it and say that I missed on that one, man. Swing and a miss. Swing. Bada. All right. Let's talk about some guys on the other side here. Some guys that are killing it this year that maybe I didn't project to be quite this good. And we're going to start with D-Hop. Nuck Hopkins, DeAndre Hopkins out in Arizona. New team this year. Hey, you don't know what's going to be happening here. It's hard to say what these guys are going to be doing. I thought there was going to be a much more spread offense here. I thought we were going to see a lot more targets for Christian Kirk, some more targets for Larry Fitzgerald. I just thought the split was going to be there, and it has not. Absolutely been the DeAndre Hopkins show. 37 targets through 3 games. Man, I mean, that's a big old number. You know what I mean? Over 12 targets a game. Gotta love that. And he's playing great. And that's the thing. It's not just the targets. He's caught 32 of those 37 targets. So the yards are there. The targets are there. The only thing that's not there right now are the touchdowns. He only has 1 touchdown. Part of that is that, Kyler Murray, I think, only has 4 passing touchdowns right now. So they're having trouble getting the ball, just like last year. Same thing last year, having trouble getting the ball in the end zone, finishing off that drive. I think you've seen Kyler Murray take off a couple of times from around the 20, and that's because of that, because they're not having success throwing the ball into the end zone. So he's taking off and trying to make it happen with his legs. But DeAndre Hopkins, I'm definitely going to say that I missed this one. I had him at 18. He's at 3 right now. That means he would have to be, wide receiver 11, or 12 to be closer to my rankings, and I don't think so. I think he's definitely going to be top 10 at the end of the year. It's hard for me to imagine him not being top 10 at the end of the year. So definitely selling that one. I missed that one again. I just thought the offense would have a much more even spread to it. But no, that schmear is not spread evenly. That thing is like mountainous on the one side of the bagel, and then there's like no schmear on the other side. So that's just how it is. All right. Next guy, Stephon Diggs with my Buffalo Bills. And I can't be happier to be wrong on this one. I got to tell you, I'm more than happy enough to be wrong here. I had Stephon Diggs as the 30th ranked wide receiver before the season, and he is the current number 4 wide receiver, man. So he's doing great. He's killing it. 28 targets. He's got a couple of touchdowns. He looks really good. Not too much else to say about that. I mean, he's just gelled with Josh Allen better than I thought. That offense looks better than I thought. I know they played the Jets and the Dolphins in week 1 and 2, but played the Rams in week 3 and also, really got it going. So, it's hard to just make that one excuse, right? So Diggs has looked great. This offense has looked great. And if I was going to sell this, I would have to say that, there's 26 picks here. 13. I'd have to say he's going to be a mid-tier wide receiver 2 or worse to be closer to me. So we're going to call it wide receiver 18. And do I think he's going to be better than wide receiver 18? Absolutely. Yes, I currently do think he's going to be better than the wide receiver 18 at the end of the year. Just looks like he's such a big part of this offense. It's not that he's just breaking big plays. He's getting 8, 9, 10 targets per game. And he's getting intermediate targets, some short targets, some long targets. He's getting everything. He's getting everything that you need him to get, man. Everything a growing boy needs in a good offense. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to say I missed that one too. And that Diggs is going to wind up being pretty darn good. Now, the last one I want to bring up here is Robbie Anderson. Robbie Anderson, currently the 8th ranked wide receiver in PPR formats. Doing really, really nice here. You know, I had him as the 41st ranked wide receiver on the year. I thought him and Curtis Samuel would be fighting for that number 2 spot for most of the year, and I thought it would be more of like a 3A and a 3B to DJ Moore's, 1. And it hasn't turned out that way. It's really been Robbie Anderson and DJ Moore as 1A and 1B respectively, and Curtis Samuel is number 3 essentially, and everybody else behind that. And so we have a couple things going on here. We have Christian McCaffrey so far as got injured in week 2. So he missed the end of week 2, has missed week 3. So that's got to add a little bit to Anderson's value there. DJ Moore hasn't gotten off, to a great start at all, and they haven't gotten the tight end involved really at all either. I'm going to go ahead and say I'm going to be closer on this one now. He's currently number 8. I have him at number 41. That's a lot of room. That's 33 spots, right? So 16 at least. So basically what I'm saying is he will not be a wide receiver 2 at the end of the year. He will not be within the top 24, and I'm gonna stick to that. I do think that by the end of the year he's going to drop out of the top 24, and he's going to have a fine season with some fine weeks. I just think as Christian McCaffrey gets back in the lineup, this offense, learns more about what its identity is, that he's going to lose some targets, to both Moore and McCaffrey. Now, that being said, Robbie Anderson looks to be better than I thought he was. I just want to put that out there. And that could be because he was with the Jets, and it could be because of Gase. It could be because of, Sam Darnold, just the Jets offense overall. I don't know. But, it went from being that, has to make a couple big plays and looks good when you get him the ball, but disappears for most of the game, to maybe he didn't disappear most of the game. Maybe their offense disappeared for most of the game. And I'm starting to look at it that way a little bit more. So I do like Robbie Anderson. Definitely better than I liked him going into the year, but certainly don't think he's going to maintain anywhere near this level of production. Right now he's number 8. And again, like I said, I don't think he's going to be top 24 at the end of the season. So look for some down weeks to come up when McCaffrey comes back in the lineup. All right, let's move on to some tight ends. Let's finish this one up here. Tight ends have been crazy this year. If you looked at the top 12 this last week, look at the top 12 for the season. This is why you don't really draft tight ends unless it's Travis Kelce early. George Kittle's been hurt, unfortunately. He's going to make a quick run. The first 3 weeks he's healthy, he's going to jump into the top 12 anyway, probably. But right now it's pretty brutal. You can find guys to play out there. The guys that you wanted to play aren't doing well. Thankfully, with tight ends, there's kind of a tight little window there for their scoring when you get away from the top, right? So let's talk about some guys that I was high on, just aren't doing it right now. First one's going to be Hayden Hurst. Hayden Hurst I had as the 4th highest tight end, so I was way high on Hayden Hurst. I think most people had him more like number 10, 11, something like that, maybe even later. And he is actually the number 14 tight end on the year. He's gotten in the end zone a couple of times, but not getting the targets that you want. And that's in an offense that is throwing the ball around a shit ton. I mean, targets galore being thrown around in Atlanta. This last week, Julio Jones wasn't there, and he didn't really have an uptick in work for Hayden Hurst. He only had 3 targets, caught 1 ball. You can't be happy about that. So you're stressing out. I mean, if you're a Hayden Hurst owner, you didn't pay up for him. So it's not that you're worried oh crap, I drafted him high, I went after him, and he's not doing well. It's more like, shit, I can pick somebody else up and probably get as good a production, but I was high on him, so I want to stay with him. One of those things, there's only 10 picks separating this. So basically, if I sell it, I'm saying he's going to be a number 10 or worse tight end on the year. If I'm buying it, I'm saying he's going to be in the top 10. So I'm going to go ahead and buy it. I'm going to say he's going to be a better than top 10 or in the top 10 tight end on the year. I'm going to see how that rolls. He's getting touchdowns. If the looks start coming with the touchdowns, he'll have no problem, jumping into there. Right now he's number 14, but I'm seeing 32 points. And I mean, frankly, he's like 2 points away from being number 9 or number 10 as it is. 2 points. So, this early in the season, not that many points separating these guys. I'm going to go ahead and buy it. Hurst is going to move into the top 10 by the end of the year. And then Evan Ingram. Evan Ingram is currently the 25th ranked tight end. I said he'd be number 10. So I was kind of a little bit lower than some, maybe a little higher than others. Maybe right in the middle for all intents and purposes. But I think a lot of people had him in that like 7 range, 6, 7, where he was the last couple of years. I got him back to number 10. He's number 25 right now. And so in order to say that it's going to be closer to my ranking than to his current ranking, he'd basically have to be a top, 16, top 17 tight end in order to be closer to mine. And I'm going to go ahead and buy that, yes. I'm going to say he will be closer to my ranking than to his current ranking. And I think that he will be a top 16 tight end by the end of the year. I think the opportunities will be there. And his offense finally is going to get away from this, murderer's row start of defenses. Not that it gets much easier, but it gets easier. It's not as bad as it was. It's going to get easier. Hopefully, Judge Joe Brown, Coach Joe Brown gets his stuff together here. Joe Judge Brown. Did you get that? I don't know. I think I messed it up. But, hopefully Joe Judge figures it out soon here and gets Ingram involved a little bit more. He just has a tough time. He's getting some targets, but him and Jones have always had trouble connecting. So I think it's going to get better. Hopefully it will. All right. Noah Fant. We're going to go the other way here. We're going to talk about some guys that I had lower that are currently much higher than that and see what we feel about that. Noah Fant, I had ranked as number 15. Currently, he's the number 3 ranked tight end on the year and looking really good for a team that's pretty beat up. You've had quarterback injuries in Denver. You had Cortland Sutton, the number 1 wide receiver, go down. Philip Lindsay, number 2 running back. Whatever. Point is, it's been, kind of not a lot of continuity there with Denver on top of the ton of defensive injuries they've had as well. Just ridiculous. So Noah Fant really showing out here for the Broncos. Looks fantastic when he gets the ball. He does miss blocks. I think he missed a bad one this last week, if I remember correctly. But, hey, that wasn't his thing coming out of college. He was, a ridiculously talented receiving tight end and had to work on his blocking. He's still going to have to work on that, especially with young quarterbacks. You don't want to get him killed. But, he looks great. So for me to say he's going to be worse than, he is right now, that would be saying he's not going to be a top 10 tight end. And I think he will be a top 10 tight end. I do. I think he's just going to be consistent enough and have some of those big games. That between the big games and then the bad games, the floor being a little bit higher, that he will wind up being a top 10 tight end. So I'm going to go ahead and leave that one there. And the same thing with this one, Jonnu Smith. I had him at 16. He's number 2 right now. So that means I would have to say he's also not going to be a top 10 tight end in order to miss. But I think I missed that one. I think he will be top 10. Jonnu Smith and Noah Fant both had big opportunities in their offenses this year. And, when I look at the guys that maybe I had ahead of them, and, let's see here. Blake Jarwin, Hayden Hurst, like I said. George Kittle, I still think will wind up being ahead of them. I had Gesicki and Hawkinson, Jared Cook. So I think they're going to wind up above all those guys. I do think that Noah Fant and Jonnu Smith will be above Jared Cook, T.J. Hawkinson, Mike Gesicki. Well, we obviously know Blake Jarwin, but I'm going to include Dalton Schultz in that then. So we're going to talk about that. So, yeah. A lot of football left to be played. Listen, it's only 3 weeks. You don't want to try to, take too much out of it. But at the end of the day, you're trying to find these trends, and you're trying to see who you're going to play in your leagues. You got to kind of look at these little patches of the year, right? So it's the first little grouping of games. 3 games have gone by. We've seen, basically a preseason at this point, all right, for the most part. And these guys should be in a rhythm. We should have a little bit more information here. And, I'm ready to start thinking that I have an idea of, where we might be headed. That being said, has been one of the craziest seasons. I mean, guys showing up both out of nowhere and then coming back from out of nowhere. Jimmy Graham, the number 7 tight end on the year right now. So, it's been wild. It's been a wild ride. So much fun though. I mean, I'm just looking forward to it. I'm really hoping this one first little blip on the screen, this first little pothole in the road, this first little hiccup, in your breathing is not going to be a big one here, man. Let's just hope for the best. Let's hope everything goes fine. Lots of negative tests. No more positive tests. Let's get it going here. Get some football. So, we'll be back tomorrow on Thursday with the first part of our Week 4 preview show. Talk about the Thursday night football game and the first half of all the games for this week's slate of games. And just talk about fantasy analysis, starts and sits, who you should have in your lineup, who maybe you shouldn't, some guys to stash, things like that. And get ready for a nice weekend of football. Hope everyone's ready for a good one. Thanks a lot for watching the show. If you're on YouTube, make sure you subscribe to the channel, please. Go ahead and like the video, share the channel if you can on any of your social media platforms if you're cool with that. We always appreciate the support and the outreach there. You can also listen to the show. We're not just on YouTube. You can listen to the audio-only podcast on any and all podcasting platforms, all of the major ones, many of the smaller ones. Shouldn't have a problem finding the GOAT Fantasy Football Podcast. Have a great rest of your Wednesday. Hump Day. We'll see you tomorrow on Thursday. Have a good one. Hey.